Good morning and welcome to our talk today, which is focused on how to conquer our fears and anxiety and worries in the time of this, event that we're all going through and regarding the coronavirus and social distancing. And I know we're all struggling with trying to figure out how we're going to manage our lives when we're kind of confined to our homes. And so my goal here today is to really start talking to you a little bit more about some of the stress management techniques that you can utilize and just kind of help us all get through this kind of really difficult time. I'm wanting to open this up to questions because I'm really here to answer and address any concerns that you may have. So feel free to type out your questions and I will just kind of start talking, and then as the questions roll in, I'm going to have Laura helping me kind of field the questions and making sure we stay on topic and stay on task, because I'm really here to be support to all of you, and I really want to get your questions answered. So I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about kind of what we're all going through. This is a tremendous time of stress and anxiety. And what I'd like to do is to figure out how we can be more, in a state of wellness, I guess. And so there's some key tips that I wanted to put out there that would be very helpful for everyone to kind of get their anxiety under control. So why is anxiety bad for our, so the question is, why is this important to do? So anxiety and stress can really wreak havoc on our bodies, both physically and mentally. And so my goal is to help everybody kind of ratchet down their anxiety over this really stressful time. So the things that are most important right now that we can focus on to help reduce our anxiety, number one is trying to gain some kind of control over our lives. Number two, making sure we stay informed but not over-informed. So we don't want to be constantly checking our emails, our Facebook, the news, and looking for a variety of different information sources. Like, find a source that you trust, check in maybe once or twice a day, 15, 20 minutes at the most, and then try to kind of carry on with your life as normal.
Yeah, may I just say?
Sure.
If I think everybody has a different level of concern and interest in the news and social media and things like that. Right. So I would only add that if you are finding yourself extremely stressed when you're watching the news or listening to the radio or gathering all this information, monitor that too.
Absolutely. It's a good point. So once you kind of figure out what is a good kind of quantity of information that you can feel like, sits well with you and you're not getting more stressed out about, then you can maybe move on to just making sure that you can control the things that you can control. So what does that mean? So in general, I tell people to kind of put a little bit of structure in their lives, because adding structure really helps people feel more calm, connected. It feels like they're grounded, and I would like you to kind of try to maintain the same structure that you had several weeks ago before this all kind of blew up on us. So if you're getting up at a specific time, if you're going to bed at a specific time, I really would like for you to do that. I also would like you to try to schedule, try to eat at the same times, try to build in some times for exercise, etc. So, having a lot of control in our lives with things that we can control is important, because right now we're all feeling just a little bit overwhelmed by everything that's going on. And one of the fears that we all have is what's going to happen, how's it going to impact our lives now, how is it going to impact our lives in the future. So staying in the present moment, focusing on what you can do every day to just be present today and stay within a specific structure will really help all of us to kind of contain our anxiety on a day-to-day basis. Because this is going to be a marathon. This is not a sprint. This is something that we're going to have to manage over the next several weeks to maybe in a couple months. So my goal is to start giving you some skills, start figuring out how we can kind of put some systems in place now so we can kind of carry on over the next several weeks. So, okay. So we talked about kind of controlling what we can and making sure that we follow a routine. And how do we do this? So one of the other reasons I like to have a routine is to really to make sure that we're being mostly productive. So what we also don't want to see happen is we all kind of fall into this kind of hopeless slumber of some way, that we get defeated or tired or hopeless, and we're not getting things accomplished or not getting things done.
We're sitting there eating our whole bag of Pringles.
We're eating Pringles all day and those types of things. So what my goal is to making sure that we have weekly goals. They don't have to be very big, and they in some cases they shouldn't be, but you want to have a purpose for the week, a purpose for the next couple months, and then you want to figure out ways that you can set a schedule to make sure that you're productive, that you have a purpose, and that we're engaging in life as we would. Purpose and productivity, again, helps us feel better about ourselves. It keeps us distracted. It reduces anxiety, and it provides some really nice structure in our day. So the other thing, and we can talk more about that in a little bit, but now is a great time to really think about adding some things that we're all like, we never have time to exercise, we never have time to cook, we never have time to eat well. So I think actually now is a perfect time to start putting those systems in place. So how can we find time to exercise? How can we have time to meditate? How can we find some time to teach our kids how to make a meal? How can we all make sure that we're sitting down together and talking and discussing all this stress that we're all under? So I think these are really important things to do. Okay, I just saw, yes, I'm glad that you didn't eat all the Pringles. Good job. So that's, so these are wins, right? Because I have tons of, unfortunately, cereal and granola in my house, and because, we all wanted to get stuff that's not perishable. And next thing you know, I'm like, it's 10 o'clock, and that granola with the chocolate chips in it looks really good. And but we all have to kind of figure out ways to kind of not overeat, because that is a way to kind of manage stress. So
I'm guilty of it.
We're all guilty of that. So we'll talk more about that as well. So our goal is to try to stay, like I said, productive, making sure we're doing some wellness every day. And this week I really was trying to focus on how to keep parents well and adults well, because we're the ones who are running the show, right? So we want to project that we're doing great to the best of our ability, but you don't want to be false in doing that to your kids, because your kids and adolescents will pick up on any source of anxiety that they see. So you really want to do your best to heal thyself in some way. I always kind of give this example, like, when we're on an airplane, they always tell you to make sure you put your mask on first, and then you can help other people. That's exactly what we need to do now. Make sure we're okay, and then when we're okay, we can help everybody else. We can help our kids be safe and content and feel secure. We can help the community and beyond. But we really need to take care of ourselves right now and focus on how we can keep our anxiety and stress under control. Okay. So what does stress do? I'm just going to jump, because I think I might have skipped this point for a minute. But in general, when we're really overstressed, and which we all are actually right now, it really doesn't help. It just kind of worsens our anxiety. It worsens our stress hormones right now are all pumping out at maximum capacity. And over time, that's really going to take its toll on all of us. We're going to notice that we're not sleeping very well, or we might be sleeping too much. We may notice that we are overeating because we have all this food, but quite frankly, the food actually makes us feel kind of good for a few minutes, and then we feel not so great later. We might get depressed. We might start feeling hopeless. We might start ruminating on all the negative things that might be happening or will happen to us over the next several months. And so we really want to figure out ways to kind of conquer stress now, build in practices so that over time we can kind of build resilience to the chronic stress that we're all going to be under.
Now, can I ask you a question real
Sure.
quick? Even if we don't necessarily feel stressed, right?
Right.
Can we still be stressed?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, this first week or two, we could be just really in kind of a honeymoon period. But our body detects any change in a routine schedule as a stress. So our body knows, and subconsciously we know that we're not, that we're kind of under a siege here. Our brain interprets any change or any situation that we don't have control of as a potential threat. And so even though we may not feel it at the moment, over time, we're going to start feeling it. Okay. And so some of the things that are more kind of subconscious symptoms of not doing well, besides not sleeping well and overeating, would be kind of more muscle aches, body aches, more stomach discomfort, jaw discomfort. We're feeling more tension in our shoulders. So these are all kind of subliminal signs that things are not going well with our body, and our body's like, what's happening? How can I kind of keep this? How can I kind of change what's going on here? So you want to just get a check in with yourself, both physically and mentally. Anything that's changing, okay, you want to kind of nip in the bud.
So if we are paying attention to ourselves and these signs of stress, and we can manage those, then we can start paying a little more attention to our kids or their stress levels and the people around us.
Exactly.
And things like that.
Exactly. So what are some of the things that we can do? We talked a little bit about, making a purpose for the week, having some structure. We talked a little bit about trying to kind of instill some wellness techniques. The ones that I like are trying to do some meditations, some yoga, and next week I'm hoping to show you. I did an interview of one of our local yoga experts, and she's given some tips on how to reduce your anxiety with yoga and the different types of yoga that might be helpful. But nutrition is another one, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a tip next week. But the more that we can eat healthy, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, whole foods, making sure we get enough vitamin C, D, put some extra zinc in there in your diet, whether it be supplemental or through foods, can really help boost our immune system, but help us feel calm and feeling better overall. So those are the things that I would recommend now. There's certain things that you can do to help improve your sleep. And I find sleep is one of the things that you'll notice first if you're starting to be overstressed. So the things I see is sleeping too much or sleeping too little. And either one can cause problems. So if we're not getting restorative, rejuvenating sleep, we can feel more stressed the next day, more irritated, more tired, more fatigued. And again, these are all signs of kind of chronic stress that's building up over time, that's going to wear on our system and cause, kind of mental and physical kind of breakdown overall. So if you're already noticing that you're not sleeping well, figure out ways that you can improve it right now. So look into some sleep hygiene techniques. Usually ones that I recommend is lower the temperature in your bedroom, making sure you're going to bed at the same time. Don't eat your whole bag of Pringles, or your whole can of Pringles or granola in my case at 10 o'clock at night. Don't eat that big thing of ice cream at night. So you want your stomach to be fairly empty a couple hours before you go to sleep. Stay off social media, stay off of your phones, stay off of all electronics for at least an hour before you go to bed. Read a book or do some kind of yoga poses that are nice. There's some nice PM yogas. Another technique that I really like is called progressive muscle relaxation. And probably next week I'll post a video on an audio for that, on how we can all kind of help relax our bodies in preparation for sleep. So these are a lot of different things that we can do to make sure that we're getting the adequate sleep that we need right now. So we talked a little bit about what we can do every day to kind of put systems in our body, or to develop a system for self-care. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is really just making sure that we are staying connected. And we're humans. We are designed to stay connected and to be a part of a community. And now that we're asked to be, distant from our family and friends, and our children are asked to, not go to school, and there's no more play dates and all these other things, it's really going to be very difficult for all of us to kind of make these kind of exceptions over the next couple of weeks to maybe a couple months. So things that I think are useful to make sure we're connected is call your family, do FaceTime, do and get involved in your community. Reach out to see, in Park City where we're located now. There's some community posts, and we're all trying to figure out how we can help our senior citizens, how we can help our kids. So look at your local resources. Then you can look at some of your larger resources to figure out how you can stay connected and be helpful. My daughter, our daughter, just had a Zoom call with her teacher and some of her friends yesterday, and it was so amazing, and it was such a great experience. So I encourage you all, if you have some friends of your children, to reach out to them and say, let's do some Zoom calls. We can all show each other
the artwork or science
projects, their favorite dinosaurs, and just help them all stay connected, because this is what we all need. And if you're feeling alone, please reach out. Reach out to friends, reach out to community, reach out to us. We're all here to be a source of support right now, because this is really a time of need. And we all need to be there for each other.
I have to say, I've been extremely impressed with the community support.
Yeah.
And from what I've experienced, it's all been online. We're staying home as much as we can. So just, a shout out to everybody and their efforts to help and contribute, and our educators especially.
Yeah. They've done an amazing job.
Yes, they have.
Totally done an amazing job. Yes. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention was really something that can be very helpful is every day just be grateful. Trying to figure out ways that you can, I'm grateful. I'm looking out my window right now, and it's a beautiful bluebird day in Park City.
But we're not on the slopes, unfortunately.
We're not skiing right now, so I'm trying not to think about that. But it's a beautiful day, and the sun is out, and I think later this afternoon, we'll probably go, hopefully after this talk, I'm going to get out there, take the dogs, we're going to go for a family walk, take a hike. I mean, these are great things that you can do when it's a great sunny day. And I know some of you probably live in other states where it's probably warmer than us.
And I'm so jealous about that.
Because we live at about 7,000 feet, so we're kind of up there. But get out, enjoy the sun. And I usually tell people between 11 and 1 or 2 is a perfect time to get some extra sunlight, to get some extra vitamin D production. The sun is high in the sky, and it's hitting your optic nerve at just the right angle to give you kind of a boost in your moods. So definitely do that as much as you can. Get outside. Even if you want to just sit on your deck and get some extra vitamin D, that's perfectly great. But just get outside, get some fresh air. Don't be overly contained in your home, and then reach out to people. Oh, okay.
Well, so does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're addressing anything any concerns that our community, friends, and family have. Please let us know how we can help. Let's see, here's one right here. What will be the lasting psychological effects of this on a societal level and a personal level?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. And I think it really depends on the duration of the stressful event that we're undergoing. I think it also depends on how well we come together as a community, how well we are able to come together from a governmental perspective, how we're able to protect each other and kind of get this virus contained. One of my goals is to make sure that I'm putting out some material that helps support all of our mental well-being, because that is what's going to keep us strong and connected. And we have to be all in this together. And if we're all my goal is okay, we got to figure out how to keep ourselves sane individually. Then we need to figure out how to keep ourselves well within our family structure. Then we can reach out to our community to make sure our community is okay. And then we can reach out to a broader level nationally and globally. So each of these steps has to occur in order for all of us to be successful in this. And over time, the stress is going to take its impact on all of us. But if you start putting some of these preventative measures in place, wellness measures in place now, you'll have more resilience to weather this storm. So if you really make sure you're sleeping well, you're eating well, you're meditating, you're exercising, whatever it is that keeps you mentally stable, mentally at ease, to reduce your stress and anxiety as much as you can now, and over time will exponentially improve our outcomes overall. And the same with our family. So when you're doing well, your family is going to do well. And so then you can, once you are feeling great, you're modeling that to your children, and then you can model that to the community, and then you can model that nationwide. So we all need to take measures individually to make changes so that we can then have a greater impact overall. But it's hard for me to predict, how this is going to impact us personally and then globally, when we are all kind of wondering how this is going to affect us long term. And I think that's the most scary part for all of us, is we don't really know how this is going to impact us individually and as a society and as a nation. So stay tuned, because we're all
we're all in this together.
We're all in this together, and we're all like keeping our fingers crossed that this is going to work out well. But I think as long as we work together and stay connected and take care of ourselves as an individual, and then we can expand that and broaden that to others, then I think we're going to do great. This is a nation of amazing people. I'm amazed every day by the kindness that I see online, the ability for others to give and to reach out to others has been, and actually, quite frankly, the humor, the fact that people are so funny makes me have hope in so many ways.
It helps us get through it, right?
It helps us get through it, absolutely.
So someone makes a comment here: go for a nice hike or workout so that you're tired.
Yeah.
Use up that excess energy, right?
Yeah.
Use it up in a positive way.
Yes, absolutely. So anxiety, so some people are like, oh, anxiety is bad and it gives me chest pains and it's like a headache and I got tension, and yeah, absolutely. But there are ways to actually use our anxiety in very, very positive ways. So one of them, the ways, is to get involved, like find a passion. If you can start sewing some masks to help our healthcare providers.
I've seen that on the news. I think
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just doing that.
If your passion is, how can we support our children? Then figure out how to get involved in providing, some tutoring, some entertainment, whether it be on Zoom calls or Facebook calls or whatever. I mean, if you have anxiety, figure out ways to turn it into a positive. And if that's not enough, then you got to exercise it away. You can hike, you can bike, you can do 1,000 push-ups or tons of squats. You can hike until you're exhausted. All these great things can really, you just get rid of that excess anxiety every day, and that in and of itself will help you sleep. Absolutely.
And so it sounds like the worst that would happen from that is at the end of all this, we're svelte, right? We have this bikini body.
Right.
Hoping.
So I was talking to my trainer, Kevin Rail, who hopefully will join us, or at some point you'll see him in our daily tips. But I was like, Kevin, I really want to make sure I don't, pack on that what I'm now calling the COVID-19. So not the freshman 15, but the COVID-19. We do not want to gain weight to 19 to 20 pounds, because that sometimes is what happens to all of us when we're really stressed out. We got tons of extra food in our house that we're not used to having, and a lot of this Pringles, popcorn, cookies, etc. So exercising is fantastic, and it's a much healthier coping strategy to kind of get rid of that excess anxiety and stress that we're all going through.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So another comment here. Mm-hmm. Actually, my sister and brother-in-law. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Heather says, we just created volcano molds. The kids want to send some pics to their teachers. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Just to stay engaged, keep our kids happy, doing positive, productive, educational things. Absolutely. And you know what? I have spoken with our daughter's teacher. Mm-hmm. She is beside herself, sitting home, because she loves these kids so much. So teachers would love that. Do it.
Yeah. And I would say, send them to us. I'd love to post pictures of volcano molds or how you did them and how great they worked. I mean, that's exactly what we need to be doing right now, is sharing some amazing activities that you can do at home with your kids that are fun, that are exciting. I'm trying to figure. I feel like we probably have to call you later to see how you did that, because
we're gonna make cookies.
We're gonna make cookies in science.
Yes.
But volcano mode sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Which leads us right into the next question. How do we have conversations with our younger children in regards to COVID-19 and social distancing?
Yeah, that's, I think our younger kids are pretty resilient, but you might just start off with asking questions like, so what is your understanding of why you're not in school right now? Does it make you sad? Do you have any worries? Are you afraid of anything? And just trying to figure out where they're at. And just, again, say, listen to them. Make sure that you know where they're coming from. If there's like, I'm kind of afraid that, we might all get sick, and just say, just kind of provide some reassurance. Make sure that you're, again, the purpose of this is make sure that you're doing well, so that you can kind of superimpose that to them. So when you're doing well, they're going to be doing great. I promise you that. But just keep your explanations very simplistic, understanding, listen to their concerns. I usually will try to, when you talk to younger kids, especially under the age of, say, 7 or 8 and younger, you want to have some serious conversations with them when you're engaging in a fun activity. So you're kind of distracting them, and so they're much more open to kind of discussing some of their worries and concerns, and acknowledge them. Tell them that that's completely understandable, that you agree that it can be a scary time, but that, mommy and daddy or grandparents, we're all working to make sure that everybody's safe and protected. Because right now what kids need is stability. They need safety and security. And you just have to reassure them that that's what they have. And then find some fun things to do, and then put some structure in there the day. I also, I talked a little bit about exercise, but exercise is extraordinarily important for kids. So if you have to invent some indoor basketball hoop, or, put some golfing into action, which is what we're doing at our house, some golfing and basketball. You can have them do some weekly jumping jacks. When we work out, at least when I make my daughter come down and do something, we have these itty bitty little dumbbells, and she can do whatever. And even if she doesn't do much, at least it's something. But she sees, you want to model the behavior that you want your kids to do. So if they see you exercising, they're going to want to exercise with you. Okay. And, if they're seeing you exercising, having fun, they're also like, oh, well, nothing that bad can be happening if my mom is exercising and having fun, or my dad is exercising and going on bike rides, or we're taking these great hikes. So just in and of itself, that's very reassuring to your children.
Let's see, we have another question here. I'm wondering how this will affect our elderly community who are most at risk.
Yeah.
And someone also comments there, especially caretakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And in general, so there's 2 comments here. So caretakers in general is a really kind of a hard, stressful phenomenon anyway. So if you're caring for someone who's ill, or who, an older sister or brother or a parent, that in and of itself is extraordinarily stressful. And so you want to take extra care of yourself. So anytime I see people who have an extra level or layers of burden, you need to take extra time for yourself. So again, remember, if you're on that airplane, you have to care for yourself. You got to put that mask on first before you're going to be good for anybody else.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, so you really have to care for yourself, and then find some extra supports to help you in other ways of your life, or to help you care for your caregiver. Now, for senior citizens, I think we all as a community have to step up, not just a notch, probably like 10 notches, to make sure that they're protected. And I've seen grocery stores that have like senior citizen hours where they can go in just for that first hour to make sure that they're not exposed to as much public, people, and that they're not overly stressed, and so their exposure is less. I think communities need to figure out, how they can provide more delivery services. I know that's what's happening here in our community. Is that there's a forum where you could just ask if you need support, and then people will sign up to help provide that support. So, but from a community level or from an individual level, if you know of anybody over the age of maybe 60 or 65, reach out to them, ask them what they need, do their shopping for them, cook for them, provide them toilet paper, provide them their fruits and vegetables, talk to them, reach out to them, make sure that they're not alone. I mean, these are really important things. And so I would just make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that everybody's protected, but especially these populations that are maybe more exposed at this time.
Mm-hmm. And I would add too, especially with older people. I think of if sadly my grandma isn't with us anymore, but if she were, and I were to call her and say, hey, do you need anything? Well, she's going to tell me no, because she's tough, right? Like, she doesn't need anybody. But if I were able to call her, I would say, hey, I am going to the grocery store. I'm going to get you some toilet paper if they have it. I'm going to get you, your favorite cake or cookies.
Sure. Yeah.
And kind of present it that way, so maybe they're a little more open to receiving the help as opposed to feeling like a burden.
That's a great point.
Okay, let me scroll through here. I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody.
There's one right there.
Okay, another question here. I've had a lot of people in my NA group pressure me to continue going to meetings, and the guilt and stress is overwhelming. How do you recommend I handle this stress? I feel like this stress is unnecessary stress.
That is actually a really good point. There's certain things, and so NA usually means Narcotics Anonymous, or AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or some other groups that you're out. Some people are getting pressure to go to work as well, so this is a pretty, without proper protective gear. So this is a significant stress. But as far as I'm concerned, if it's not an absolute critical necessity that you show up to that meeting, then you shouldn't go. And there are ways like Facebook Live, there's Zoom meetings that can be extraordinarily private that they can start exploring to make sure that we're all getting our needs met, that we're continuing the structure of our routine. But we really have to be safe. We got to practice this social distancing, not just for us, but for everybody else. And, if there's a pressure put on you, just say, I'm sorry, this is what I need to do. This is what the CDC and the World Health Organization are recommending, right?
We should listen to them.
We should listen to them. And these meetings are absolutely important, but let's figure out an alternative way to make them happen. And there are tons of platforms. There's a lot of these group chat meetings that are offering their services for free right now. Look into them and say, look, we can do this instead. And that really should be perfectly acceptable. Personally, in my private practice, obviously I tend to see people in person, but I've said, look, starting next week, everything has to be done via a telepsychiatry. Now, is that ideal? Not necessarily, but this is what the sacrifice that we all have to make sure that everybody's safe. And that is, to me, that's the goal of all of us, is we got to keep ourselves safe. We got to keep our community safe. We got to help keep our health practitioners safe from everything that's going on right now. And if the only way you can do that is to practice social distancing, then that's what has to happen. Yeah.
Let's see, another comment here. The kids meditate with me, and it's great for the kids and parents.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I completely agree.
I agree.
We're big fans of meditation.
Yes.
And I try to get up early in the morning before our daughter gets up and is being needing everything under the sun. But sometimes she'll get up and I'm in the middle of it, and it's like, hey, come join me. Come have a seat. She already knows what I'm doing, and she knows that she's always welcome to join me. And it's really good for her, too.
Yeah. Yeah, meditation is not just for adults. Kids can definitely engage in it, too. The expectation is a little bit different as far as, they're not usually able to meditate for 30 minutes. So I usually recommend that if you want your kids to meditate, you want them to meditate based on their age. So if they're 6, they should meditate for 6 minutes. If they're 10, have them try to meditate for 10 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. But just practicing it and just letting them know, mom's going to go meditate. You're welcome to join me when you're done. When you don't want to do it anymore, just quietly walk out of the room. So you can kind of engage them that way, and they see you do it. Again, you modeled the behavior that you want your kids to do. But even a couple minutes of meditation, it calms their mind. It's a great strategy before you have them engage in some of their schoolwork. It can reduce their own stress level. They can sleep better. So all the positive benefits that adults get that children can get as well, but they actually need just a few minutes. They don't need the entire duration that we do.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of meditation, can you explain kind of what that does with the brain and the positive effects it has on us?
Yeah, meditation has so many benefits from both a body and a mental standpoint. First of all, it reduces our cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, which is great. We really like our cortisol when we're like being chased by a bear, or when we're in a car wreck, or in a pending car wreck, because the stress response is great in the moment. The problem with stress over time is our cortisol keeps getting released, and that causes a lot of issues, which I kind of mentioned earlier. So what meditation does, if you do it regularly and over time, is it reduces our cortisol level. It also reduces our fear response, so reduces our fight or flight response in general. It sets that tone to a lower level, so it takes a lot more to kind of scare us and make us afraid than usual. Meditation also changes our brain patterns, and it turns on the calm, resting networks that we want and reduces those ruminative, obsessive thought patterns, those brain circuits that kind of induce us to think things over and over again. It kind of reduces the frequency of those networks. And it also improves connections in our brain that are responsible for what we call executive functioning. So we're able to, when we improve our executive functioning, we can think better, we can focus better, we make better decisions, we can plan better, and we're much more clear in our purpose and our goals. So all these are amazing benefits of meditation, but you really have to do it regularly. So you can't just meditate tomorrow and then feel like you're going to get all these benefits. This is something that you have to practice every day, and it usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks for you to see like the full benefits of the treatment, which is just like medication. Nobody can give you a medication right now and expect you to feel better, mentally at least, for 4 to 6 weeks. It's the same kind of thing. It takes time for the brain to change and develop those neuroplastic changes to make an effect. So I recommend people start now, 5 to 10 minutes a day if you can, and build up to 30 to 60 minutes a day, and I guarantee within 4 to 6 weeks you're going to feel substantially better.
And if I might add just some tips if you are going to start meditating, or if you do currently have a regular meditation procedure.
Mm-hmm.
A couple tips. I don't suggest anybody meditate while in bed.
Yeah.
Okay? We'll end up falling asleep, and then our body associates meditation with sleep. But even having said that, if you do fall asleep, that's okay. Mm-hmm. My kind of mantra with the meditation is no meditation. Like the only bad meditation is no meditation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So my little tip there.
Yeah. And then we got a shout out from Seattle. If you feel that you don't have anything to do, somebody has suggested that you can come over and mow their lawn. So if you want to mow other people's lawns, I will give you their address and you can head on up there in the Seattle, Washington area. I think that's a great tip.
Okay, let's see. How do we teach moral, social responsibility to young people who are not practicing self-isolation and most likely vectors to spread disease?
It's a good question.
Thank you, Mimi.
Yeah. It is a tough one because developmentally, young adults, anywhere between the age of like 16 to 22, this is what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be bucking the system. They're not supposed to be, listening to the greater good. They're a little bit more self-centered. They feel like nothing can stop them anyway. So they still have a little bit of narcissistic, not that they're narcissists, but I'm just saying that this is a normal pattern that they tend to feel like they're indestructible. And so they don't quite get it, why it's such a need to protect the community. So again, you just have to really talk with them about it and just like, kind of rehash this over and over, like, look, this is not about you as an individual, but this is about us as a community, as a family, as a country, as a nation, and globally, that every action that we make has a reaction on so many people above and beyond that. And you just have to talk to them more about it and just say, I get that this is not quite, you don't quite understand this right now. But as a parent or as a teacher or as a police officer or as whoever's having this conversation, government official, we just have to keep repeating these kind of things over and over again and talking about social responsibility, because we are all responsible right now for what happens to us in the future. And, teenagers and young adults are not always the most future-forwarded thinkers, so they don't always think about the long-term consequences of their actions and behaviors. And so you just have to kind of continue to remind them that these are really important steps we need to do now. And, keep putting guidelines. And if you still have the young adult at home, you can then, obviously we can all kind of help ensure that we put more structure in their lives and keep them occupied in other ways. Right. And not give them the finances to go on spring break in Florida and hang out on the beach. There's ways that we can help curb their behaviors too, as parents and as adults. But in general, just continuing to talk to them about the importance of moral and social responsibility right now is really important. Yeah.
So this particular age group happens to be your specialty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a lot of people talking about their seniors in high school possibly not being able to walk across the stage for graduation.
Yeah.
And this also spills over to the seniors in college graduating.
Right.
And I'm, assuming there's going to be this extreme emotional, sadness for them. And so can you speak to that?
It's going to be a very big disappointment. And it's really important to acknowledge that. This is going to be a generation that has had, every generation has it's something, right? And so, or it's event, or it's life-changing thing that has happened to them. And for this generation, this is it. And they're going to miss out on some really important things that they've looked forward to for many, many years. And so just acknowledging that this is a major loss for them, that they should be sad and they should be angry, and those are normal feelings, is really important. So what I usually stress to parents is don't downplay it. Like, don't just say, oh, it's not about you, it's about, everybody else. Like, sit with them and just say, God, this sucks. This is awful. I feel so bad. This is terrible.
You definitely validate their feelings.
You've got to validate their feelings. And then if there's a way to, after this is all over, we all have to work on as a community to make sure that these kids do get their graduation, that they are able to maybe delay a year and have their prom or engage in some of their sporting events, or do the best that we can to help kind of give them some closure. But we have to acknowledge that this is really hard for them. And I think that will go a really long way.
Yeah. Let's see here. Are there any other questions or comments, concerns? Funny statements, we like those.
We do like funny statements.
We appreciate humor for sure.
And the funnier the better.
No, you know what? It's actually been so fun to be on social media. There's a couple different groups that we belong to that are kind of specific here to Park City, but the humor is just incredible and appreciated. I mean, clearly I'm not talking the humor of making fun of anyone or, excuse me, any organization, but just, let's just keep it light and get through this, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think, humor is probably one of the best coping strategies that we have. So it's a high level coping strategy, and we should use it often. We should laugh a lot. We should love a lot. We should enjoy every moment that we have, because at the moment we don't exactly know how all this is going to pan out. Finding humor and gratitude every day will help us all move forward. So keep your funny comments and your memes coming. I laugh a lot. I've been laughing a lot, and I'm so surprised at not surprised. I'm amazed at how clever people are, and I think it's fantastic.
I will hear you laugh from across the house, and I just automatically know she's just come across this funny meme.
Yeah.
So then it creates laughter from one end of the house to the other. It's great.
It is. It's great.
And that's what we need from one end of our community to the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Between some humor and acts of kindness, we'll get through this.
Absolutely.
So let's see, guys, anything else you want us to address or talk about? Definitely appreciate all the questions and comments.
Yeah.
I did notice earlier, as far as like the looks like the volcano kit.
Oh, it's a kit. That's good to know.
Yeah. Nice and easy.
Yes.
It looks like it was from Christmas 2 years ago.
Okay.
That is great. What a great time, right? To kind of start.
If you can post what that kit is, and maybe we can kind of spread the word. That's a great volcano kit. These are great activities to do at home with our kids. It's great.
So it makes me wonder, how did you come across this after 2 years? Were you utilizing this downtime to do some extra spring cleaning or clean out the junk drawer or
Right.
2 or 3? So, utilizing our downtime and, not that there's a whole lot of downtime. I say that like there is, but which actually might be another good point to talk about. So our daughter is home, and we are in a position now of working full and now homeschooling.
Right.
Guys, I'm not a homeschooler. We really like her going to school every day and with a trained professional teaching her. So that's another level of stress to the family.
Yeah. And one of the things we posted a video yesterday kind of discussing the importance of, we want to put structure in our lives, but we don't want to overstructure ourselves, and we don't want to set ourselves up for failure. So I really want us to focus on meeting our basic needs, staying connected, finding a purpose, putting some structure in our lives, but don't overdo it. You cannot be a parent working full-time from home, homeschooling, making dinners, paying bills, exercising, meditating, getting, your 8 hours of sleep. So something's got to give. So focus on the basics right now. Don't overwhelm yourself. Everything is going to be perfectly fine. You're doing a fantastic job no matter what you can get done or what you can accomplish that day. Because in and of itself, trying to be perfect, trying to tackle every project that you've ever wanted, whether it be cleaning your whole house or organizing that junk drawer, some things can wait. What can't wait is keeping your sanity in check and keeping the well-being of your family in check. So to me, those are the basic foundations of what needs to happen right now. And keeping that in mind, that it's okay if you don't actually get dressed that day. If your kids stay in their pajamas for 24 hours or longer.
Or wear the same pair of 2 nights in a row.
It's okay if they wear pajamas same 2 nights in a row. Absolutely. This is all okay. We're all, like I said, we're all just trying to make it day by day. Some days are going to be fantastic. You're going to get a lot done. And some days,
we'll sit in our pajamas all day.
We're going to sit in our pajamas all day, maybe eat granola or Pringles. Okay, if that's what you're going to do that day, that's what you do that day. Okay, not every day, but some days.
Everything in moderation, right?
Everything in moderation.
Which is someone says don't drink all the wine in 1 week.
Do not drink all the wine 1 week. You never know when the liquor stores are going to close officially.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. When we talk stress, and talk a little bit about overeating, and the COVID-19 is what I'm calling it. We also don't want to overindulge in alcoholic beverages as well, or some other things. Like we don't want to overindulge in Netflix and binge watching TV all day. So again, everything in moderation. If you were drinking a certain amount of beverages, several months ago, then you should try to maintain that. You don't want to like double or triple your alcohol consumption over the next couple of weeks. Because all these kind of not so great habits can also impact your mental health, cause problems with sleep, cause problems with weight gain, being more sedentary for the next couple of weeks while you're watching, power watching all these different movies that you've always wanted to watch. These are things that you just don't want to do. And you want to try to, like I said, put some structure and productivity in your weeks every day and throughout the weeks to keep you kind of on task. So,
and I think you mentioned earlier too the importance of trying to maintain the same or similar to the best of our abilities routines and structures that we had before this.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, there's someone's drinking already.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Well,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Depends on the day, I guess.
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Who knew? Who knew 2020 would be so intense? Can we take a mulligan? Is that the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just all kind of do nothing all year, and we can just start over in 2021. I agree with that. I think that might be a great idea.
That might be a little extreme, right? But
well, maybe because we're still going to have to pay our bills in some way, and again, we don't want to overindulge and get. I won't say too lazy, but we really want to make sure that we're staying on task and staying on top of things as we would prior to this. So
that's a nice fantasy, though. Taking the year off.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So here's a question: how do we keep anxiety and emotions from constantly over and under reacting at the same time?
Good question. And I guess that's the what I kind of want to relay today is putting in some strategies now, like meditation, some exercise, eating well, deep breathing exercises, having a purpose every day or every week, even if they're very small purposes. These are all ways to reduce our stress and anxiety, help us distract from our stress and anxiety, try not to watch the news too much, try not to engage in social media too much, unless it's for fun, but really trying to find ways to kind of distract ourselves from those thoughts, because they're going to come up. We're all anxious. I don't think there's anybody who's not. I don't think there's anybody who can say, I'm not worried about this. Well, except for the teenagers who
or on the beach drinking.
Or on the beach drinking because they don't quite get it, because that developmentally that's what they're supposed to be doing. But for the rest of us, we're all kind of freaked out, including myself. There's times where I'm like, oh gosh, do I have enough food? Do we have enough food? We need to put gas in our cars? And then you have to be like, okay, let me take a deep breath here. Okay, remember what the provisions that we have. We're safe. We have enough for a couple weeks or whatever period of time that you feel you're comfortable with. Spend 15, 20 minutes listening to the news just to see where things are going with that piece. And then really try to go on with your day as if nothing is going on. Like, distract yourself, keep yourself healthy. I mean, these are the tips that I feel like we have to do now and continue to do them over time. If you find that's not enough, definitely talk to your family, talk to your friends, stay connected. The other thing that sometimes helps with recurrent anxiety is to be of service to others, meaning if you can reach out to that elderly couple down the street who you're worried about, go shopping for them, call them, constantly. So if you want to, like I said earlier, help our warriors in the medical community, sew some masks, if you want to help deliver food to people who can, if you want to donate funds to help our small businesses. So find ways that you can be of service. Also helps reduce our own anxiety because we're doing something, we're participating in the greater good. So those are other kind of strategies to help with our day-to-day anxiety. Now, if you're doing all these things and nothing is working, now would be a good time to reach out to your mental health care provider. There's therapists, there's psychiatrists, there are community-based mental health services that you can contact and connect with to see if there's additional resources that are available to you. Because if you need help, you should definitely ask for help. The nice thing about mental health treatment is we can do it online. You don't have to go in person. And so for me, there's no reason not to ask for help and get more help if you need it right now.
And earlier we were talking about, being available for our friends and family members who might be having a bad day.
Yeah.
When we also mentioned validating our kids' concerns. I just want to remind, too, that to do that for our friends.
Absolutely.
If you have a friend who has reached out to you having a bad day, bad, week, whatever that may be, let's make sure we're validating everybody's feelings and concerns.
Right.
And then, help them problem solve if that's what they're looking for. I mean, sometimes they might just be wanting to complain and just vent and get it off their chest. That's cool too. But just to share that generosity with everybody.
Right. Well, if you need help, ask for it. But if you're available to help, then you should totally do it. Just offer some help. We're all going to have great days. We're all going to have really bad days. Every single one of us. And that is completely normal, and that's okay. But if you need it, just say, hey, call somebody up like, I'm having a really bad day. I really need to talk to somebody. And if you're on the other end of that phone call, then listen and be a source of support. If you're having a great day and things are going well, call someone. Check on them, somebody you're worried about. Just say, hey, how are you doing today? I haven't heard from you in a while. So that's how we're all going to help support each other through this.
I think sometimes a phone call goes even farther than a text.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just really nice to hear someone else's voice. I know it might sound old school to many, but I know for me, I enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, we've all texted somebody. It's like, hey, how you doing? They're like, okay. And you weren't even really sure if they were really okay or not. Like, what does okay mean exactly? If you
Ask your question.
You call them, and then you're like, how are you doing? And they say, okay. You can actually tell based on the inflection of their words if they're really doing okay or not. And so to me, having whether it be a voice connection, whether it be a video connection, which gives you some more detail really about how they're doing, is probably a little bit better than texting at this point. Not even a little bit, it's a lot better. You can really get a better idea of how people are kind of weathering this storm right now.
And with our significant others, our partners at home, I think it's also important to point out to offer leniency towards our partners. We're all going through a lot of stress. We're all trying to figure out how to keep a family running and working and paying the bills. And if you have a primary provider, that person's probably under a great deal of stress. You have a primary caretaker, another great deal of stress. Right. Offer some leniency to maybe a mood swing or an irritability.
Right. Well, and I was just thinking, parents are in a lot of stress. There's some parents who have several kids, and there are different age groups. Reach out to them. See if you can do a play date online. A virtual play date. See if you can do, a book club with wine online. There's different ways we can all be. What I've learned is we're so very smart and so very clever, which is why we're on the top of the food chain. And so let's utilize our smarts and our humor and our need to congregate and be part of a community to our benefit right now. Yeah.
Stephen Hawking is quoted saying, and it's one of my absolute favorites, is intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And that's exactly what we're all doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So kudos to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see, do we have any other questions or comments here?
Let's see here.
Okay, someone is, they're saying their niece, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Sandy. It might be you. Hoarding Easter Cadbury Robin eggs. I'm not complaining, though. She probably isn't either, right?
Well, somebody who doesn't like her, but I'm assuming...
As someone who does, I'll be knocking on your door.
Yeah, please send them our way. We'll text you the address.
Oh, yeah, we're not leaving the house, so
Yeah.
you can snail mail them to us.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I watched the news so much the day of the earthquake, and it stressed me out.
Yeah.
Yes. So for those of you who maybe didn't know, who are joining us from out of state, Wednesday was it? Utah experienced a significant earthquake, 5.7.
Right.
Pretty stressful. We felt it up here in Park City. The whole house shook. Melissa was downstairs. I was upstairs. We ended up meeting right in the middle of the stairs to make sure everybody was okay. And yeah, that was a pretty stressful day.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, you want to monitor how much news you watch, because I mean, and I've even done it the other day, and I just couldn't stop watching, even though it was like the same information like the whole day, and then I just started worrying. I'm like, okay, and then I didn't sleep well. Then I'm like, okay, so we all have to be conscious about how much information that we get. Make sure that the information that we get is very, very reliable, that we get it from a single source, and that we're not sitting, it's not watching it and ruminating about it all the time. And the other thing is it's not just a coronavirus. Like Utah, we were struck by an earthquake. It was another stress. Like nobody was like, we're like, really, we don't need this right now. But there's going to be other part of the countries that are going to be afflicted with other issues. There's going to be snowstorms, there's going to be tornadoes, there's going to be flooding. I mean, there's going to be some natural disasters. So everything that we're going through is going to be right now is like a really high level of stress and anxiety. And I expect that that's going to increase over time, especially we're going to get sick potentially, or our loved ones are going to get sick, or, like I said, more natural disasters, or just daily life stress. And so we all have to try to prepare and do the best we can to protect our physical and mental health starting now. We've got to build that resilience now so that we're prepared for anything that kind of comes at us over the next couple months.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Have some tools in the tool bag there.
Tools in the toolbox.
Coping strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, someone comments, telemedicine is a great option now, and with just a small copay.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, I'm hoping that they'll kind of reduce some regulations where some of this will be without a copay for certain insurance companies. But yeah, I mean, reach out, find somebody that you can talk with and connect with if you need extra support. Yeah.
So I have a question for you as far as the telemedicine goes. Is it billed the same through insurance as a regular in-office visit?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of insurance companies, they will bill it the same. And I believe Medicare and Medicaid just allowed it recently during this crisis because they understand that the need is going to be there, and so they're going to allow that reimbursement to happen as well. So utilize the insurance that you have for sure. Find some group supports that might be free. Ask your community. You can contact your mental health department in your community and say, what are some of the resources, both free and not free, or at least cheaper, that we can get right now, because everybody's scratching their heads making sure that we can provide that support. I know here in Summit County, we're really reaching out to the community, and I imagine that's happening in your community as well. Let's see.
Kim says, I had no idea how many video calls and apps there are. I'm a huge fan of these. I have friends internationally that I haven't spoken with in ages, and I'm using these to get in touch over this time. Yeah, that's, we have to utilize all of this.
Absolutely.
It's so strange, right? It's so strange not to just be able to walk out the door and jump in our car and go meet the girls for girls' night.
Right. Absolutely.
We've got to get creative and use the resources that we have to stay in contact with people.
Yeah, and I know a couple, but even over the past week, I've learned about so many more. But I guarantee you, if you ask your kids and your teenagers in particular, they will share with you a wealth of knowledge on how to communicate with people wherever they're at. And so this might be a nice opportunity for them to teach us older individuals, not old, just older, what are some of the great apps to connect? Because this is what they do. They know this, and I think that would be nice for them to share it with us.
They will, and then we can file that.
Yes.
And monitor.
That's right.
Monitor as needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, just mentioning, some people resist change and are so afraid of it that they don't adapt. Let's see. And my eyesight is. And they're ignoring the social distancing recommendations and maybe acting belligerent online. I am trying to have sympathy for them, even though their actions make me angry. They are afraid.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Individuals are afraid. What do we do with fear? We fight or we flight, right? And some individuals, when they fight against systems that are actually there to protect them. And so we just have to kind of continue with the educational piece, support them, acknowledge their concerns. And again, just kind of same with when I was talking about the adolescents, just say, look, I understand that we're infringing on your personal rights, but there's also this thing called social rights, as far as we got to protect the community at large.
It's really a social obligation.
It's a social obligation. Sometimes if you bring it to like a more of a realistic person, like say, right now we're trying to protect your grandparent. Right now we're trying to protect, that sibling of yours who may have is immunocompromised. So making it a very personal to them might help change their attitudes a bit. Because some people just can't see the big picture, right? And especially with young adults, they still have that kind of self-centered focus, which is normal. But just trying to bring it home in a very realistic way on an individual basis where they can maybe relate to a little bit better might be helpful. But again, it is a little bit frustrating for sure. Yeah.
So, I might add to that as well, and you said it too, educate people and present it in a way that would bring it home to them.
Right.
Make it a little more realistic for them.
Yeah.
It's good advice there.
But in the end, we can't change other people. And if there's individuals who don't want to step up to the plate or who find it really difficult to change, the only thing that we can really worry and focus on is making sure that we're doing our part in it. Because we all play a role, and if there's some outliers who are not following the system and not doing it as well as we can, it just makes it more important for the rest of us to make sure we're doing what we need to do. So it's a tough one, but we all just have to take our personal ownership and know that we're doing the best that we can right now. Yeah.
So on the flip side of this, I was actually on Facebook earlier, and I came across a video of people were in an airplane, right? They hadn't taken off yet, and someone, a passenger, observed a guy coughing and got very worried about that and brought it to the attention of the staff and things like that. She viewed him as being like over the top ill. And it kind of the general consensus was she was overreacting. Yeah. So can you speak to that piece, those who are hyper concerned?
Well, and I think that's the part that we're all unsure of, is how hyper concerned should we be? And we, again, we this little thing in our brain, it's the amygdala, and it's what induces fear for us. And some of our fear monitor is set really high, and some people have like literally no fear. And those individuals who skydive and do all these really things that most of us won't do. And so you just have to have some symptoms like, look, I understand that your fears or concerns. And if you're one of those people who has extraordinarily amounts of fears or concerns, the key is notify who you need to notify. You've done your part of it. And then you have to kind of trust in the system that it will take care of you. And if you feel like it's not, then, for her, perhaps it might have been, if she was so stressed or overwhelmed, perhaps it would have been okay for her to exit the plane.
As opposed to being the one exited.
Exactly. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you inform, you let people know who are in charge in hopes that they'll take care of it, and they will, because everybody's trained right now on how to kind of manage some of these issues that are coming up. But if it's still not, what you would like to see, then perhaps just trying to extract yourself from the situation would probably be a good first step. Yeah.
That's good advice, on this video too. I mean, it escalated into physical violence on both parts.
Right.
I mean, that does not help anybody in any situation.
No. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, then what you can't change a system per se, but what you can do is change your role in that system. And just extracting yourself, informing who you need to inform, and calling it good is all that you're really going to be able to accomplish anyway. So there's really it doesn't always make a lot of sense to kind of keep escalating the situation and making things worse for everybody, because what's happening is going to make it worse for you as well, and induce more fear and panic in others around you. But that's a tricky one. But again, when I hear that, I'm thinking this poor person must really have a very low threshold for tolerating any threats of fear. Or threats towards herself, and so trying to work with her, help calm her down, letting her know and reassure her that everything is being done to make sure that she is safe, because to me that's what she was afraid of, that she was not safe. And so we all have to try to do our best to make people feel safe, and that everything is what it should be. But I know that's kind of hard right now. It's a difficult time.
Yeah, and it might be difficult to remember the sound advice that we all know and carry with us when we're in high moments of stress and anxiety and fear.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So anything else here? That's the last one on that page.
Okay.
So, all right, guys.
Yeah, well, I think we covered some of our basic information we wanted to relay to you, and you also had some amazingly great questions. So in summary, take care of yourself first and foremost. Be the model, be the support that you want others to do. Make sure you're doing well. Then make sure your kids are doing well. Make sure your family is doing well. Then you can reach out to the community and make sure everything do your role to the best of your ability. We all need to kind of take some more responsibility and protect ourselves and others. Put some structure in your day, practice some wellness techniques, get some good sleep, don't overeat to the best of our abilities. Take every day one step at a time, and some days you're going to rock it and some days you're not, and that's just perfectly fine. Know that you're doing exactly what you should be doing every day. And in the end, this will pass, and we'll all get through this together. We just have to be a source of support for each other and for ourselves. So,
well said.
Yeah.
So, thank you everybody for joining us. And please always keep in mind, this is kind of our saying, how we like to sign out. Ask if for help if you need it, and if you're in a position to offer it, please do so.
Yeah,
that's what we need right now.
Yeah. And if you have any questions or tips on anything we talked about, please post them to my website. Love to share all the great advice that you all have, because we all bring a different perspective to this picture, and we're all here to learn and to teach and be supportive and be supported. So take care, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.